Hey you all, it's Amber from the Ostomy Diaries. This is the live chat that I did with my good friend Tina. We chatted about dating and relationships with an ostomy bag. Be sure to check out Tina's blog, Own Your Crohn's, and you can find her on social media at Own Your Crohn's. You can also find me on social media at Ostomy Diaries. I hope you enjoy this chat. This is part 1. So just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This Facebook Live discussion is sponsored by Hollister Incorporated. We were compensated for sharing this with you all. Our testimonials are representative of only our experiences, and results and experiences will be unique and individual to each of us. This chat is not intended to be medical advice. If you have questions, please reach out to your personal medical team. Hollister does have some links that we're going to provide that have tips and things we'll be talking about today, different articles about how to live well with a stoma.
So given that Valentine's Day is coming up just on Friday, many of us might be thinking about love and also thinking about romance, and Amber and I really hear you on that, and we figure out how to navigate dating and relationships as well as intimacy with an ostomy. So please note that today's chat is all-inclusive. We welcome ostomates, caregivers of all genders, cultures, ethnicities, and sexual orientations to participate with us today and interact with us as we go along. So ask questions, have fun. That's what we're doing.
For sure. You can ask us anything.
So Amber, that said, can you tell us a little bit about how you started dating with an ostomy? What were some of the feelings around it and thoughts that might have gone through your head at the time?
So, like I said, I had my surgery in 2016. I was not with Joel then. I was not married. So I was determined not to date until I had my ostomy reversed. My ostomy was intended to be temporary. I was so afraid of what other people would think. So I just kind of shut myself off. I didn't even want to put myself out there because I was so afraid that no one would ever be okay with this flaw as I saw it, not being whole anymore. But honestly, by getting out there and dating and just being open about it, I saw that that wasn't the case. You know, all the people that I went on dates with, they were actually really comfortable with me talking about it. And I learned quickly that most people didn't care. And, you know, I think something else that I really learned is if you do go out with someone and start sharing and they're not okay with your health condition or your ostomy, then that's just on their character. And I mean, for me, I wouldn't want to be with someone like that anyway. But I did find that the genuine guys, they didn't care at all.
I think that's such a good point that you make, Amber, that this is kind of like a truth serum in the sense that when you're starting out a relationship or dating, like you get to understand, like, you know, if that person truly does care for you or if these kinds of external issues might matter more to them. So that's a really good point. But now I have a different follow-up question for you, Amber. How did you first tell guys that you were dating about your ostomy? Like, did it come up on the first date or did it come up later on? How did you sort of do this?
So the guys that I was going on dates with at the time, I didn't go on dates for a couple months after surgery because I was just so afraid. And then some of my friends talked me into it. I was actually Facebook friends with some of the guys I went on dates with. And so, you know, I had been sharing on my personal page about my health journey and what I was going through with my surgery and explained little tidbits about what procedure I had done and that I had an ostomy. So, I mean, for the most part, they knew. But, you know, I had to realize that when explaining it, you know, they didn't know the details. And so a lot of the information that they were hearing about ostomies was just from me. And so I had to really focus in on how it had saved my life. It was how I'm able to work and socialize and even go on dates. And, I just presented it as something really positive. And so they received it as positive. I just let them know that it doesn't affect how I date, and it can be a really great thing for your life and help you to be able to go on those dates.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good way to put it. And positivity, showing this as a life-saving force, as something that's helped you gain quality of life back. That's something that I think also helped me sort of navigate my way towards having a relationship with an ostomy. But before we move into how I've been navigating this, I wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Did you ever hesitate to bring up your ostomy, or did you feel comfortable saying you have an ostomy to people that you were dating?
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I mean, first of all, what are they going to think? Because let's be honest, bowel movements are something that are just a little uncomfortable to talk about in general, much less, this new way that I had my bowel movements. That's just not something that I typically like to discuss with people that I'm romantically interested in. So I was so nervous. I built up so many fears in my mind. I would definitely recommend practice talking about it to your friends or your family, because, before you do it with someone you're romantically interested in, I think the more times you talk about it with your friends and people, the more comfortable you're going to feel sharing about it. And, the more comfortable you get, the easier it's going to be to talk to someone that you are romantically interested in about it. So I would definitely recommend that repetition of talking to people you're just friends with, more casual. That way you get practice about sharing.
That's such a good point. I think even for me, like practicing as much as I could on family and friends was key before, I would talk to on and about it my husband. Now he's my husband, but at the time he was my boyfriend. And I think practicing really allowed me to feel more comfortable in my own skin and in my ostomy, and really starting to reveal my story. So thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
What I'm doing right now is plugging in some tips for talking about your stoma. It's from Hollister's website. So I think this could be super useful for those of you who need more of an elaborate discussion and more details on how to talk about your stoma with other people.
Exactly. And Patricia asked us a question. How do I get past the intimacy issues with hubby? It's hard to feel sexy for me now that I have urostomy. We're actually going to get to that in just a couple minutes. I just wanted to let you know, we see you, Patricia, and we are definitely going to spill the tea on how we feel sexy still. So stay tuned.
It's a great question, Patricia. We're definitely going to get to that very soon.
So, Tina, next question for you. You were already in a relationship when you first got your ostomy. So, how did you tell your significant other? How did you tell him about your Crohn's? And then how did you open up to him about first needing that ostomy the first time?
Sure. And I was starting to allude to some of this a few minutes ago, but for me, I told my boyfriend at the time, Anand, who's now my husband, when we had started dating, that I had this disease and that it had actually taken lives in my family. My father and my aunt passed away from Crohn's disease that became colorectal cancer. So I didn't want to wait too long, as I felt like that would rob our relationship of a solid foundation of trust. So I think like maybe 3-4 weeks into our us dating, I was like, you know what? It's been long enough. I really like him. And I think he really likes me. I don't want to wait too long before, it feels like, okay, I'm lying at this point if I don't tell him.
Like withholding information.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I wanted to make sure I told him that I at least had inflammatory bowel disease, even though it was mild, and that this does run in my family. And that it can get bad, or it might be okay down the line. We don't know.
Yeah.
So there was that piece. And then I also wanted him to research the disease, research the condition, understand the nuances of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to me needing an ostomy, we were already 2 years into our relationship, and we were pretty serious at that point.
Wow.
I knew that I wanted to marry him, and I think he knew that he wanted to marry me. So while he knew that surgery is a big deal and that my case had progressed pretty intensely, I don't think it really mattered to him all that much that I would be going to the bathroom differently, as long as I was alive and well at that point. Of course, at that point, it was also a temporary ileostomy that I was getting because I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and was given a J pouch after 7 or 8 months of having a temporary ileostomy. So that temporary part of the equation also helped to alleviate some situation and some discomfort with the ostomy. But later on, when my ostomy became permanent, I think it was more that I think when you hit a certain point of life or death with your condition and you really, really care about somebody, all that really matters is getting them back to a place of health. So it really didn't matter to him that much that I was going to the bathroom differently.
Right. So how did he digest that information at first, that transition from just having Crohn's disease, well, just having Crohn's disease, but having Crohn's disease to needing your colon removed and getting the ostomy? Like, how did he take that information of you needing surgery?
I think it was really hard on him. But look, when I needed surgery, it was 2008. So it's been 12 years now. But that first surgery, that total colectomy, was definitely the hardest to wrap our heads around. For him, I think he saw me so sick for a 6-month period of time where it was like I was failing so many different medications. I had tried so many different things to get my disease under control. And I lost 50 pounds. I had a PICC line in my arm that was feeding me. It was unsustainable. So at that point, you know, we were kind of in a push to save my life.
Yeah.
So I think it was a frenzy. But after I had surgery, sort of the emotions around it started coming out. I started getting better too and putting on that weight and doing a lot better with the ostomy. And I think that allowed for a greater acceptance around the ostomy. If you
right. So I just want to read this question because it goes along with what we're talking about.
Sure.
Can I say I have an ostomy on the first date?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you definitely can. You know, I think a lot of times we want to focus on the first date, just getting to know each other and having fun and it being casual. But, you know, I think if the conversation leads to that, you definitely can. If you feel like you don't need to withhold that. So what would be your advice, Tina, for someone?
I think I would definitely agree with you, Amber. And thank you, Yaman, for bringing this up. I think that if you feel really comfortable with this person on the first date and they seem really open-minded, and let's say you're discussing health for whatever reason on the first date in general, maybe it comes up, maybe the healthcare system comes up, or what have you comes up where you're like, you know what, this is really appropriate for me to throw in there. You know, I've had some health issues and I'm now living with an ostomy. I think that might be a fair time to bring it up. But I also, you know, encourage you to make sure that you know and understand a person and also don't want to necessarily scare a person off, because health issues can be a very heavy thing to mention on a first date when it's supposed to be a little bit more flirtation or frivolity on the first date. So I personally would probably wait until date 3 or 4, just so it's not too long out, but it's also not, you know, right in the beginning where you're sort of getting to know each other. You've spoken on the phone a few times and you've met up a few times, and they sort of have an idea of who you are outside of your disease. I think that's a really important thing to establish. Who are you outside of this disease? And yes, I do have this. It's given me life back, but it's given me quality of life back. But you know, it's not all I am. It's not
exactly. Well, and you want to see, do you even want to pursue this person after the first date? I mean, you know, the reason I may wait until at least the second or third date is because, is this even going anywhere? Are we compatible? Am I having a good time with this person? Because, I mean, if you don't see yourself wanting to pursue that further, then, I would maybe not do that conversation the very first time. But I think that's something that you really have to, it's an individual situation based on, what mood are you feeling and if you feel comfortable or not.